This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXCX, the best talk in town. Interesting conversation today, one that kind of saddens me, but one that needs to happen. Vaccine injuries are a real thing. Think of the number of people that you know that had the shot and then had side effects. Well, that hasn't gone away. They're still administering the shot. We've still got all kinds of what I consider to be unanswered questions about the consequences of the shots. I am thankful that I lived in an area and work in a job where I never got the shot. Got COVID, but guess what? Everybody I know that got the shot, they got COVID too. So it didn't stop the spread. We finally got that agreed upon. And they claimed it made the symptoms less. I think there's a lot of question on that. They tried to control behavior and use fear to push us into doing what they wanted, and then used threats, multiple levels of governments, particularly if you worked for government or you were a government contractor. You were forced, if you wanted to be employed, to take the shot. Well, this didn't stop there. We're going to focus on a particular area of it where those side effects are resulting in really bad, hopefully unintended consequences. I don't trust the pharmaceutical companies a whole lot, so we're going to call it unintended consequences, but you should question them. Today I am joined by a local nurse. She works in, I don't know what you call the field where you deliver babies.
Postpartum.
Postpartum, okay. Michelle Spencer, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm happy to be here, even though the circumstances are sad. I am happy to be a voice for those who are voiceless. And I am a nurse, and I've been a nurse for 8 years. And in the last 4 years, I worked on postpartum. So I started in I started in 2020, so that was right in the middle of COVID, when everybody was scared of getting sick, and the world was existing in the state of fear. So people were doing things that they had never done before, and they were relying on the experts, and people were wearing their PPE and washing their hands constantly, trying not to get sick. But other than that, the floor, people were coming in and delivering babies, and these mothers were mostly healthy, and they were delivering healthy babies, and then they were going home. So it was actually a really pleasant floor to be on, despite everybody was kind of scared of being sick.
So it was still a place where there was hope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because I worked on the tele floor, or the cardiac floor, for 3 years prior to postpartum, and the patients on the tele floor were very sick all the time. They had chronic health conditions like cardiac issues, lung issues, kidney issues, and they were on a lot of medications. They tended to be older people, and then they would come in with an issue, have medications ordered for them, and then go home and normally come back. They were just sick, and it was kind of draining because I'm more upbeat, bubbly, want to be around babies. And so when I went to postpartum, I was so happy. I was like, man, God put me on this floor because I'm so happy to be here taking care of newborns, sending them home, and they're healthy and happy. And so I loved it all of 2020. And then in 2021, they started talking about the COVID vaccine coming out, and prior to 2021, we would not have many stillborns ever. We had maybe like 4. For every year prior to 2021, the hospital would have like 4 stillborns. And these are like full-term babies that something would happen inside. So 4 per year in one hospital. And then 2021 came, and these pregnant women would go to their OB doctor, and the doctor would push the COVID vaccine. So it was all of a sudden we started having these moms coming to the hospital delivering a baby in 2021, and something would go wrong inside, and the babies would pass away inside. And so these women were coming in delivering dead babies. in 2021.
So stillborn.
Stillborns, yeah. And
the only big thing that's changed during that period of time is the COVID
the
shot.
only thing. That's correct.
Well, and the stress. But
yeah.
beyond that, I mean, that's the only big thing that we changed medically.
Correct. I mean, there was stress in 2020 also because everybody was scared. I mean, a lot of people were scared, but there were only about 4 stillborns in 2020 and every year prior.
Pre-shot, but still the
Yes.
stress of COVID.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And
so
then,
they can't say that because you have to, it spread like wildfire. I'm sure there's going to be some people that say, well, COVID itself is doing it.
right. Some people did say that when this started coming out and, in the, not the mainstream media, but other people that were noticing and talk about it. And Dr. Thorpe is a 40-year OBGYN in Florida, and he noticed the same thing. So he made a graph, and he found that in 2020 and the years prior to that, there was an average of 5 stillborns to every 1,000 live births. And so that's a very small amount. And then the number increased to, on his graph, it says like 22 stillborns to every 1,000. But
so more than 4 times.
Right. But the number 22, the number from 5 to 22, I strongly believe that number is much, much higher than 22. And it's crazy because in 2021 up until now, there is a dead baby being born every day when I go to work. And so it went from 4 per year prior to 2021 to it's an average of 4 per week. Still.
Yikes.
And so these moms were going to their OB doctor. The doctor was pushing the vaccine on pregnant women. And
by the way, they often doctors get financial incentives to push particular medicines or vaccines.
Absolutely. And not only, 2021, 2022, they were pushing the COVID vaccine. And then these mothers were coming in and delivering dead babies. It happened over and over and over again. And there's other nurses that have seen the same exact thing, and they have heard me talk about it, and they agree with me. In the beginning, they weren't really agreeing with me. They were saying maybe it's pesticides, maybe it's global warming, which sounds ridiculous. But people are like blinded to the fact that these vaccines that were pushed on them so hard could have actually been harmful because a lot of them got the vaccine. So they're not ready to accept the fact that that possibly is harming people as much as it is. And so the OB doctors were pushing the COVID vaccine. After about 2022, they pretty much stopped pushing the COVID vaccine, but now they push the flu, the Tdap, the MMR,
but aren't
RSV.
Aren't the new versions of that all mRNA?
That's what I've heard, yes. And so they're pushing this mRNA technology on these pregnant women. We have found now, Dr. Thorpe has done many studies. He has people that have helped him, and they found that the mRNA technology goes straight to the eggs of the female. And so it disrupts their reproductive system. And so if there's a baby in there, they've also found, that they have been causing clots, the mRNA technology. And so there's clots that develop inside of the umbilical cord, and it cuts off the oxygen supply to the baby. That's why as the baby develops, the baby ends up passing away when they're full term.
That's interesting. I did not know this detail because it's not really disputed fact that there are clots, particularly in young men, but in babies also. That makes sense, but I didn't know that.
Correct, yes. And I know a sonographer who's a 40-year sonographer who she has noticed when she would do ultrasounds on these women, she can tell by the characteristics in the placenta. She'll say, you got Moderna or you got Pfizer, and she'll see the little clots inside of the placenta or the umbilical cord. And this woman is brilliant. She has so much information that if she can say, oh, you got this shot, the Moderna, and the mom says no, well, then that means the dad got it. So whether the mom or the dad got the shot, it affects the baby because it develops inside.
Well, for those that
DNA.
Are saying, oh, this is a crazy idea, I want to point out that there doesn't seem to be any argument about whether the COVID shot affected your reproductive cycle. Like women's cycles very much changed.
Right.
So it's not a very big leap to go from your cycle changed and it affected your cycle to it's affecting if you got pregnant, your baby.
I know. And it's devastating because these women, they trust their doctor because they believe the doctor is the expert. The doctors recommend these shots and they tell them it's safe and effective. They don't say, oh, there's a potential, this could potentially kill your baby. And so these women blindly trust this authority. And whether people believe that this vaccine harmed these babies or not, there's still a problem that needs to be addressed. And so I want these women who lost their baby to please go to their doctor and say, look, that vaccine harmed my baby, and where's the accountability? I just want accountability to be a thing. I want people to be able to talk about vaccine injuries. It shouldn't be taboo anymore. The truth is coming out. And some people think I'm brave for speaking out. Other people think I'm crazy.
There's a fine line between the two.
I know. And I finally realized I don't need to worry about what other people think. I just think I see that there's a problem. I think things need to be addressed. We need to get to the bottom of this. If the COVID vaccine is killing these babies, we need to acknowledge that. If it's something else, okay, we need to acknowledge that. Either way, something is going on. People need to come together and, look out for each other. A lot of people have been gaslighted, and they're isolated still, and we could do better than this. And our children, I believe that all babies are God's babies. I believe, if I see somebody's child, if I'm responsible, if I'm taking care of them, and when they're in my care, I feel like they are mine. I'll treat them as my own. And I think that we need to get to a place where we can relate to each other. We can help each other out. This whole thing with the vaccine injuries and people denying it still, we need to do better than that. Our kids deserve better than that.
Well, it's not just, it's every level of society is changed.
Yes. Not
just kids. Though
yes.
Kids are our future, it's a lot harder to lose a kid than it is to lose a parent. I have relatives that have lost a kid and they're never over it, as opposed to you lose a parent. I'm not saying it's easy or good, but you feel like, well, they've lived their life and we all know we have a limited time here.
Right. So these kids deserve a chance to live their life, not even make it to birth. And in my opinion, these women are being robbed from time with their loved ones, their children that are being taken from them. They're being robbed in so many ways because of what's been unleashed on humanity.
Yeah, this is a tragedy. So most people just go, well, this is too big a problem. I can't make a difference. You didn't do that.
No.
And you were united with several other women, mostly women in your group. Sadly, sorry, because men should be standing up here too. But I think you're all heroes. And I know that it's weird to hear that, but you're standing for what you believe is right. And one of your solutions is you've started a lawsuit and you're having a press conference about it.
That's
so
correct.
Let's give kind of the intro to that before we go to our first break.
Sure. Yes, thank you. And so for people who haven't heard my story, there's a whole story behind this, but there is a press conference coming up on August 8th at 1 p.m. at the Clovis Veterans Memorial Hall. And
so that's in Clovis, California.
Correct. At 1 p.m.
1 p.m. on what day of the week is that?
Friday, August 8th. And I welcome everybody to be there. And this press conference is going to talk about a case that is a lawsuit that I'm suing the hospital for retaliation against a whistleblower. And
well, if there's a problem, retaliating against a whistleblower is not a good idea. Even if the whistleblower, sometimes they might be wrong. I don't think you are in this case. But large organizations tend to hide things because there's financial reasons to protect their jobs and things like that. But we need the truth.
Right. Well, I received an email in 2022 that I shared with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And then my workplace found out that I had shared this email, and the email contained data about these dead babies, and it confirmed everything that I had been observing. And since this email went viral after that, because RFK sent it to quite a few people he said, go handle this. So they found out, my workplace found out that I had shared this email, and they investigated me, and they told me, they said, are you aware that it's against company policy to copy and paste an internal document? And I said, why are you wasting your resources investigating why I copy and pasted an email? You guys need to be investigating why babies are dying. And I said, I'm a whistleblower and I have rights. And I didn't even know what a whistleblower was before this whole incident happened, but I realized that I became a whistleblower somewhat organically, and they told me I can go back to work after that. And then they kept a bonus from me that I was entitled to the following month, and they said that it's because I violated a policy, that so I didn't qualify because I copy and pasted an email. So the bonus that they kept from me, which I'm not really interested in the monetary amount, but it's very interesting for this whole case. It was $6,666.
That's a little crazy.
Right. And so that was retaliation. When I called Human Resources, I said, I noticed I didn't get my bonus. And she said, oh, it's because you broke the rules because you shared the email. You didn't follow policy. And I'm like, well, that's weird because that sounds like retaliation to me. And she said, oh, no, it's not. She's like, we never give out this kind of bonus and you didn't qualify. Like, she didn't really have a real clear answer for me. It was very confusing, and I kind of believe that's kind of how the devil works, trying to confuse you. So anyway, I hung up the phone. And I let it go. I didn't really care. I was like, I don't want your evil money anyways. And I kept going to work. And then recently, a family member complained about me because I gave a mother informed consent about a hepatitis B vaccine. And the family member complained. So my boss called me in and she said, I need to follow up on this complaint with you because if I don't, we have to send it to California Department of Public Health and we have to take all this action. And I'm like, that's funny because I've complained to the California Department of Public Health. I've complained to you guys. I've complained to the Labor Commission Board. I've complained to Fresno PD. I've complained to everybody about these dead babies, and nobody ever says anything. But one family member complains about me, and you guys have to follow up? What? And so she said that I explained that every time we give a hepatitis B vaccine to a baby, we are chemically assaulting them. As a nurse, we should be doing no harm. Doesn't matter how much you're getting paid. If it's causing harm, you shouldn't do it. And she said, I know you have your beliefs, Michelle, but you need to do what's required of you per the institution. So let that sink in.
So morality doesn't matter.
If you're getting
and true
paid.
Informed consent, even if they believe that the effects that happen from giving kids batches of vaccines, because they don't give them typically one, they give batches, and there's not a lot of study about what happens with giving huge batches at a time.
Exactly. It's all wrong.
There should be an informed consent.
Absolutely.
By the way, there was no informed consent with COVID.
No.
My dad got it, and I got to see his paperwork, and there was nothing on there. There was nothing in the place of course, this was early on, and I didn't know enough to say, Dad, can I have this?
Mm-hmm.
He threw it away.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing. That's scary.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, everything was mishandled during that time. So
let's go ahead and take our first break.
Okay.
And we'll come back to that thought. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. I want to say thank you to everybody on social media. This has been a wild ride. I love getting to have real conversations with people, try to bring light to issues. So if you believe in what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, share, comment, hit the bell notifications. All of those make a difference. Let's go ahead and come back. And this is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. I am joined by a local nurse, basically a baby nurse, a delivery nurse. I know those aren't correct terms, but everybody's going to know what I mean when I say it that way. I love how when that gets brought up, there's a smile on your face.
Oh, yeah.
So clearly you love your job.
Yes.
And you care about kids.
Yes.
And we're talking about the effects, or actually, while it's still a question mark, it still could be a hypothesis, all evidence seems to be leading us towards COVID has bigger consequences than we thought, and babies aren't okay because of it. Aside from deaths, though, what's happening with side effects? Are kids being delivered normally, or are there other things happening?
Are they being delivered normally? No. The COVID vaccine, when it rolled out, we had an influx of babies come to the NICU. So if they weren't being born dead, they were being born prematurely, and then they had to go to NICU. So in April of 2021, we would go from having 50 babies in the NICU at any time, because we're large NICU, to in April there were 80 babies, and we had never had that many before in the NICU. And now, 4 years later, these mothers are still getting every vaccine that the doctor recommends to them. So whether it's COVID or not, or if it's Tdap or RSV or whatever, the flu, it's really affecting the babies. The babies, if they're being born, 4 are being born dead per week still since 2021. And
so this is a hospital that had approximately 4 per year.
Correct. Yes, before 2021.
4 per month.
So, and they are still dying, which is the crazy part. You would think if it was the COVID vaccine and it was being rolled out in 2021, 2022, that hopefully they would stop being born dead now, but they're still being born dead. 4 per week still in one hospital.
Well, what that tells you is, because I wish there was the studies to tell us if those people had continued to get their 5th and 6th and 8th shot, or whether they just got 1 or 2, which is the majority of people, they got 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
and it's pretty random.
But if it's not a long-term shot and they said, oh, everything's going to go away, that doesn't seem to be the case.
I don't think so. I think it replicates over and over again. And so the babies that are making it to birth, a lot of them are having respiratory, cardiac issues. Some of them are being born missing toes, missing fingers.
Well, we had some of that before. Do you have any data as to the increase?
I don't have the increased number in my mind, but I know that I've seen these deformities more so now. And we're definitely, the cardiac issues have increased. They have to do a lot of echocardiograms on these babies where they check their hearts, and they have to do, a lot of them, they end up with respiratory issues. Those are the 2 main ones. But these are things that didn't happen before 2021. When I worked on the cardiac floor, we would see this in older adults, and now it's these babies that are having these issues. And so, I mean, we have no idea what's going to happen as they develop. And it's scary, and it's not right, Their lives are being robbed already, and they're barely even being born. And so we just need to have awareness. We need people to start standing up and fighting back. And I want parents to gain their power back. Don't rely on the doctors, because the doctors are going to lie to you. They're not going to give you true informed consent. Every time I have a baby come to me, we are supposed to give hepatitis B vaccines as the first vaccine. And I'll tell the parents, look, you don't have hepatitis B, so you cannot pass hepatitis B to your baby. The only other way baby can get it is through sexual transmission. And your baby's not going to have sex with anybody for a very long time. And then they're like, okay, yeah, I don't want it. I'm like, you don't get it from crawling around, putting dirt in your mouth. And so when I explain that to them, it's simple. It says it on the VIS form that you can only get hepatitis B through, drug needles and sexual transmission. So I'm giving informed consent. And my boss doesn't like that. She doesn't want me to say all of that. She said, if they have questions, you need to refer them to the doctor. But I'm not going to refer them to the doctor because the doctor's going to lie and say, oh, your baby needs it. Your baby could die if you don't get it. I also am in a functional medicine nurse program. I'm almost done. I'm like 98% done. And I just learned recently that there's 250 micrograms of aluminum in the hepatitis B vaccine. And the FDA recommends no more than 18 micrograms in an infant's body. So that's more than 10 times the amount for an 8-pound baby.
That's close to 15 times, yeah.
Yeah, and that's an 8-pounder. If you have a 5 or a 6-pound baby, it's going to be a lot more. So that right there opened my eyes. I decided at that point, I will never give another vaccine to anyone for any reason, but especially a newborn, because the FDA says do not give more than 18 micrograms of aluminum. And aluminum is a neurotoxin that can cause all kinds of issues like autism and asthma and autoimmune diseases and all these things.
All of which are exploding in our population and have been for
and
20 or 30 years.
Parents should know.
Which line up with the vaccines.
Yes.
Coincidentally.
So parents.
The explosion of the number of vaccines, because every vaccine has some of these really toxic things.
Yep, absolutely.
In California, what was it? We're getting close to 100 vaccines.
I know.
Some of which are given more than once, but it's close to 100 different shots by the time your kid makes it to high school.
I think it's like 6 years old. But either way, that's awful. And parents should know what's going into their children's bodies. We're not stupid. Parents are unstoppable. And so if the doctors aren't telling you what's in
only if they demand their rights.
Right. So we need to stand up for our children. They deserve it. They need you to speak up for them and start asking questions for your children's sake. So this press conference that's coming up, after my boss called me in and said a family member complained, I had just had enough. I was like, you know what? I love working here. I love taking care of moms. I love taking care of babies. The babies are a blessing. But like, I'm not going to keep being told that you have to do something if it's wrong, or you have to do it because you're following orders. We're not living in Nazi Germany in 1946 or whatever year it was. We don't just follow orders anymore. We have to question things. And so I called Mary Holland from CHD, the president of CHD, and I said, hey, I really need to talk to an attorney. And so she referred me to an attorney here in California, and he is just spearheading this. And so, the whole lawsuit, we're going to it's about retaliation against a whistleblower, but really it's to bring the truth out. And I think people are ready. They're ready to hear this. They're ready to protect their kids, and they're tired of being lied to. We deserve informed consent.
Oh, I agree with that. Well, RFK leaves me with a lot of hope. He has decided that one of the things he needs is representatives from each state, people that are in the hospitals. And I can't give a lot of details on this. Heard about it from a friend of mine that's being recruited. Those people would kind of give him an idea of what's actually happening. So often we've got layers of bureaucracy, and those bureaucrats are not necessarily connected to the patient. So they decide what's good for you, and then it gets passed down. Like we have the crazy thing you mentioned earlier. What was it? 18 micrograms of aluminum is the max, and yet a different aspect of government says, no, you have to give this shot. It's like they're not talking to each other, and the patient gets lost in the middle.
Yeah. And if your baby's injured, the people who decided that your baby's supposed to have that shot, they don't care. They're not going to
Well, they're not
help you.
liable as
They're
part of
not
the
liable,
problem.
yeah. So then you're left with this child who's been injured and you're lost, and you try to go get help from the doctor, and the doctors are being paid to give these vaccines. So of course they're not going to say, "Oh, your baby's vaccine injured." So
Well, that's one of the flaws in the system, that the pharmaceutical companies are allowed to give bonuses to hospitals for using particular drugs. Resdenamir, look into it, folks. Hospitals were getting paid bonus money from the pharmaceutical companies to peddle that particular drug. Same thing happens with vaccines, and it seems wrong that medical professionals would have money involved and the money would make the decision rather than what's best for the patient.
right,
We're not treated as individuals.
right, yep, exactly. Yeah, so I welcome everybody to come to this press conference.
Well,
And
aside from you don't have to agree on everything. You have to realize there's a problem and you want to bring light to it.
exactly.
And we do expect people to be polite, but beyond that, come ask questions or come support.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yep. Ultimately, it's about protecting these babies. They deserve it. They deserve to have a healthy life, and they deserve to have us be their voice and defend them. And another thing that brings hope to the community about this whole issue is there's a wellness clinic that they're stepping up for these babies, and they're acknowledging vaccine injuries. And so they have done a lot of research looking for therapies to help injure these vaccine injured kids. And so I just started working there, and I'm bringing hope and healing back to the community in that aspect too.
So you mentioned that vaccine injured people, heart problems. With kids, it's autism.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other big categories of things?
For the wellness clinic, we're taking care of anybody that goes in there. We
Okay.
we
I
want
just
to
was
help.
curious if there's some particular big group of people you're seeing. I know they're largely kids,
Mm-hmm.
but what are the main symptoms? Is it mostly just heart and autism, or are there other things?
At the wellness clinic,
Yeah.
we want to see everybody, but right now we're taking care of a few autistic kids who are nonverbal, and so we're just helping them. There's different therapies. There's like bioenergetic resonance, frequency therapy. There's an infrared sauna at this facility. There's energy medicine like Nayet, which is to help reverse allergies. So I'm a
Never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So with Nayet, you can work on allergies, whether it's food or environmental allergies or even emotional issues. You can help use acupressure, and you can help reverse these things that have happened in their bodies. And it's kind of it's like acupuncture. So it's actually like an old technique. But this woman called Dr. Devi, she discovered this treatment in 1985, and I became a practitioner about 8 years ago. Around the same time I became an RN.
So this wouldn't be thought of as traditional Western medicine, because
Correct.
Western medicine's its tenets seem to be, well, I can give you a pill or I can
Right.
give you a surgery, and if that pill doesn't work, we'll give you more pills, and then we'll
Right.
schedule you for a surgery.
Yes, it's not like that. It's very holistic. It's looking at the whole mind and body and spirit all as one, finding out where there's like an imbalance, an energetic imbalance, and helping to correct that. So I'm able to do that using NAED. And then there's a lot of other things going on in there. There's like lymphatic drainage, massage. There's different machines for athletes to recover. We have so much going on in this facility, and it's just not enough people know about it. But I believe this is revolutionary. And
Well, a huge portion of the world used alternative approaches to medicine, not Western medicine. Western medicine, if you really need a surgery, is effective.
right, there's a time and place for it. Yes.
But most of the chemicals they give us,
Right.
they don't actually solve the problem. They just address the
They-
problem. They don't deal with the underlying problem.
Right.
It's like they deal with the symptom for the moment, and there's all these unintended consequences, i.e. side effects.
Right. They treat the symptoms with poison, and then the poison gives you side effects because you're being poisoned. But there is a time and place for all of those things. I mean, I'm not big on medications or supplements, really. I would rather get to the source and help find other ways to correct the imbalances in the body. So, but I mean, I've seen like my dad, he has to take heart medication and he seems to be doing okay. So there's a time and place for all of it. But like you said, if the surgery and the medication should be more like an acute process if it's really needed. But we really.
But you couldn't make any money that way. And
right.
There is the crux of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, because people are realizing that there's other ways of healing besides medication and surgery. And that's why this wellness clinic is here. And
well, diet, exercise, and unleashing the potential of your own immune system.
Yep.
Those are real things.
Yeah, exactly. And lots of sunshine. Yeah. Yeah, there's other ways to heal than just medication and surgery, for sure.
Not that there aren't necessary sometimes. We have put ourselves in this little narrow box that, while I don't really want the government running hospitals, I want them to be a free enterprise. At the same time, I would love for them to focus on, what if you spent some time talking about having your patient live a reasonable life? Maybe you don't drink until you're ready to collapse, or maybe you don't eat until you have trouble fitting through doors. Maybe you exercise in at least a moderate way.
Right.
There's a lot of reasonable things that doctors would spend time at. I'm with Kaiser, and I don't bother to go in very often, even though I pay my $1,000 a month.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I'm sure that's on the lower end too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do treat people a lot holistically. I have a Facebook page called Healing Ground, and I have people reach out to me every day, and a lot of the times they find me through word of mouth, and when they come to me, they say, they went to their doctor and their doctor's a joke. They paid all this money and they didn't even help them at all. And they see me one time and I help them a lot. And, once they find me, they tell me they feel like they have hope again. I hear that a lot. And so, yeah, I see what you mean. You go to your doctor, you spend $1,000 a month, and then they just say, oh yeah, okay, they check your vital signs, and then they're like, yeah, so your labs look bad. Here's some medication or whatever. And then you walk out of there like, what? Like you don't feel like better,
Well, like I had a blood clot, and the way Kaiser tried to deal with it was, and I'll put me on blood thinners. Well, I read into the side effects, and I went, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so I found another approach.
Good.
I'm not saying they're 100% right, and they run in my family, and it's a genetic issue, but I've largely dealt with it without having a surgery, which they absolutely pushed, especially the second doctor. Second doctor didn't even bother to talk to me about what the new symptoms were. I made a second appointment, and my first doctor wasn't there. He was on vacation, so they gave me somebody else. Not, hi, how are you? But he started off with, this is what I want you to do, and I want you to take this blood thinner and have you looked into surgery. You don't even know what my new symptoms are.
Right.
I did put in a formal complaint against him. I was more than a little pissed.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good that you did that.
But yeah, it's just crazy to me that was their solution, and that they didn't even want to hear. Well, okay, as a conservative, nonetheless, I taught yoga for 20 years. There's a lot. Yep. Yes, me, Mr. Producer. Absolutely. Was a certified instructor. Yep.
That's awesome.
And so there's a lot of things that you can address health-wise. Not everything. I'm not under any illusions that will help you. Number one is, if your stress levels are lower, your immune system works more efficiently.
Right.
That's I see the biggest single one of alternative medicine. Not that they haven't really stretched now and found, in some cases, new possibilities. In some cases, just realizing that wow, people figured this out 1,000 years ago.
Right.
And we lost that wisdom.
Right. Yeah. Well, I believe we're getting back there because I hear it takes 30 years or so to make a generational change. And we've been on this medication, this Rockefeller medicine, since like the 1920s. But the
A little
vaccines,
earlier than that was the first move. A little
oh,
earlier, yeah.
but the vaccines really took off around 1980s when that law passed, where
Well, there
they're
was
free of
only just a few
liability.
things, yeah. There were
Yeah,
just a few vaccines, and all of a sudden, when they weren't liable, they went, we can sell this product.
yeah. Well, now 40 years later, people are really waking up. So, I believe the change is coming, and I even though the topic is hard, the dead babies topic is very hard and heartbreaking. I know that change is coming, hope is coming. I think that we can all transition into where we're connected to each other again, and we don't just put band-aids on our health problems with drugs or medicine, and there's other ways to heal the body. So I do feel hopeful in that aspect.
Well, on that note, we're going to take our last break.
Okay.
This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. So, Michelle, as we focus on this last one, where you're hopeful, where there's solutions, and you can see the timer. When we get down to about 2 minutes, that's when I would go ahead, if you're going to read that or if you're just going to talk about. But we want to get people to this press conference. Let's go ahead and come back. And this is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. We're obviously not going to fix everything today. But people need to open their eyes and realize that what's happening with the COVID vaccine, there are long-term implications, and I pray that they're lesser rather than greater. But I'm not liking a lot of what I'm seeing. There is just too many dots that weren't there. Cancer's exploded. Autism is up even more than it was, growing at an exponential rate, basically. And now we're having an explosion in stillborn births. In other words, dead babies. So part of it is not real hopeful. But guess what? We have the most freedom in this country. We've got money to fix problems. We just have to mobilize and take care of this. And I think one of the steps is bringing light. So, Michelle, how are we going to bring light to this? What do we do?
Well, I invite everybody to come to the press conference so they can see things that are, going on, the hope that we're bringing here to California. And then I also invite everybody to come to the bodybuilding at Peach and Knees. It's a wellness center. You can look up more on Instagram with the bodybuilding if you go to A Ghost for Autism, or you can go on my Facebook page at Healing Ground. But we're always posting updates. So I'm just trying to bring hope back. I have treated so many children who have vaccine injuries, so many autistic children, enough to know that vaccine injuries are very real. And my end goal with this lawsuit is to stop all of the shots. And I kind of think that we're starting with the COVID vaccine shot.
Well, that's the low-hanging fruit.
Right. But then from there, we're going about with the hepatitis B vaccine. And then we're going to try to go with all of them. And some people, they get these shots because they think, well, don't you need them for school, for public school? I say just homeschool at this point.
Luckily, in California, there's an explosion in homeschooling.
Right.
Though the legislature is trying to stop that.
Right. But parents are waking up, and I am thankful for that.
Well, last I heard, we're 5 times up since the beginning of COVID.
That's amazing. That is great to hear. Yeah, and so parents are waking up. So my end goal is to kind of wake everybody up. Vaccine injuries are real. They're not rare. I have treated hundreds of kids with vaccine injuries, and with success, they've made improvements, great improvements at the bodybuilding. So please, if you are struggling or your child is struggling, bring them to us, please. We welcome all the kids. Every time the kids go in there, we treat them like they're our own. We don't gaslight the parents. We're not like, okay, what's going on? And then don't actually listen and then just say, okay, here, take these drugs. That's $700. No, it's nothing like that. I mean, if you can't really afford to have your children treated, just bring them anyway. We can work with you. And, there's a heart opening coming for the bodybuilding again, and I believe it's August 13th. But I'm not sure. But we're gonna announce that at the press conference too. But
Well,
yeah, just trying to bring hope back.
This is August 8th for the press conference.
Correct.
At the Clovis Veterans Memorial District building. There will be signs because there's multiple rooms within that building, but there will be signs to direct people. We need a good turnout.
Mm-hmm.
This is a launch for a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
With even though it's about whistleblowers, the main thrust of the lawsuit is to bring light to what's going on.
Right. The
to
dead
inform
babies.
people.
The exponential increase in dead babies. Yes.
It's painful to even hear.
I know.
Yet, if we don't acknowledge the problem, we don't work with the problem, if we just stick our heads in the sand, what good is that going to do?
Right. Yeah. We need to acknowledge it. We got to, people are afraid of change, but it's time. I think people are ready to face this and ready to hear it.
Well, we have the most freedom of any country. We're the only country where rights are granted from God, and then we have enumerated rights. In other words, they spelled out your rights, and then within that, limited government at the same time. So, if you want change, guess what? We have the vehicle, all ensconced in that Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. I think the most important, and the reason why it's the First Amendment, is because I think that the 5 things it talks about, religion, speech, press, petition, assembly, those 5 things are what allows us to interact with our government and get out the word of what we believe is true, what we should stand for. So I hope that people stand. I hope they get out and come to this press conference and become part of the change.
Me too. Yes, thank you.
Well, you had a little statement you were going to read that one of our mutual friends wrote up for us, just kind of her vision of the press conference, and she's integral to this local movement. So I'm going to go ahead and let you read that.
All right, thank you. So she says, we are holding this press conference for you, for the families of the hospital COVID protocol victims, for the COVID vaccine injured, and for those whose children were harmed by routine childhood vaccinations. Bring the faces and names of your loved ones. Bring their stories. Bring their photos. Let the world see who we're fighting for. Together we will break the silence. Together we will demand truth, justice, and change.
That's a powerful statement. And yes, we do need to always demand transparency. We should expect truth from our politicians, and we should expect truth from our bureaucratic state. I don't believe we got that during COVID. I think that Pinocchio Fauci, every time you turned around, he had a new lie. That wasn't okay. Oh, wear the mask, don't wear the mask. Oh, the vaccine, you'll have no side effects. Oh, the vaccine, well, you won't be able to spread it. And you're an evil person if you don't get it. Really? That came directly from our government.
Mm-hmm. So much pressure.
And yet, a whole bunch of it just wasn't true. Even if you don't believe that vaccines are bad, all those details just weren't true.
Right.
Well, if they're lying to you about these other things, shouldn't you begin to question everything?
Mm-hmm.
Final thoughts? We're down to just a little bit of time. About 15, 20 seconds.
Right. I mean, we need to start questioning things. Like you said, if they lied to us about that, what else are they lying about? the more you go down the rabbit hole, you realize you've been lied to a lot longer than just COVID.
Well, folks, I hope I see you August 8th is that 1 p.m.?
Yes.
That's a Friday at the Clovis Veterans Memorial District building. Awesome facility. There's good news. If you decided you're somewhere in California and you wanted to come in and see it, there's also great places to eat. I hope to see you there. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXCX, the best talk in town.